Good afternoon. Welcome to Option Center. It's Thursday, December 4th, 2025. So we're going to take a look at SPX, weekly, daily, 65 on SPY, VIX, IBIT, and we'll look at MJ as well, just to keep us updated here. We'll swiftly go through those on the daily time frame. And then we'll finish off with the 65. Since we made it just an incremental new high today, we hit those targets we talked about yesterday. I want to show you the indicators on the 65-minute to see if anything changed or if it develops more of our thesis here that we're going to get a head and shoulder set up. Okay? And we're doing this intraday about 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to get these videos intraday, consider becoming a YouTube supporter. It's 99 cents. And we do additional videos for an upper level. It's $5 a month, and the one that we did on there, we did a complete game plan for next week because of the situation, the position that the market's in. We want to give both our, if you're trading and you're in a position to hedge, you need these scenarios in your mind, bullish and bearish, in order to protect or to solidify your position. And when the market gives you information, so price action is the key. And no matter what we think, price action will give you more information than we can base our hedges and trades off of those. Okay. And something we talked about in the Discord briefly yesterday was an excellent question, and I love that we have a lot of new people in there and new traders who, I want you to feel comfortable asking questions because we have all sorts of levels of traders in there. And they talked about the quantitative easing, QE, and when we start doing it again, won't that be super bullish and we continue on a bull market? And really, I was saying, yeah, after a big move to the downside where it forces them to use all of their tools, quote unquote tools in their toolbox, and he asked me to give some examples in history. Well, I said QE didn't exist before 2008. Okay, they came up with QE, and he said, give me another example of where QE didn't help the market. Well, I mean, after QE, they held on to it in zero interest rates forever. So just know that that was one of the catalysts for this entire move. So do they do it again some other time? Sure. We'll see. So here's a look at this. Is my long-term channel. By the way, this is brand new. We'll see this. I'll talk about it in the weekend analysis. This channel that I'm drawing up here, and why our new high actually has topped here. And I'll show you that in the weekly analysis. But here's where our first QE came in, 2008. All right. So it came in on the 25th of November. And the market capitulated, and then we had a bull market after that. So, the forward-looking market had already tumbled so many percentages, like 40 some, maybe 50 after this last dip here. But sure, this could have been the catalyst of it. Scares you out and gets all your traders in. And, and then the big dogs start buying, and then you have your bull market. So that was a finish of a multi-year bear market. 2000 is part of this. You had a big flat pattern. So it's not like this was the first leg. This is actually the C leg of a flat pattern. A was the A leg was the .com bubble, and this was a financial crisis. So you had a huge sideways range that resulted. And you could say, if you like this, have fundamentals and QE and buying money, printing money and injecting money in the system. And all this resulted from the contraction, huge contraction for whatever, 15 years or so. And I think 13 years. And then expansion. That's just what happened. So, all right, I rattled on enough about that. Let's jump through into the analysis we have. So yesterday I started talking in Discord and said, I really don't see anything really happening this week. Price action just conforms some sort of topping doji. You made enough. You made a new high here from last week. And so however this results, whether it's a thin range doji or a big red bar, it doesn't matter. Anything could happen Friday, but it just gives a feeling that nothing's going to happen this week. and that you're waiting on price action for next week with the FOMC minutes on, or not minutes, but FOMC meeting going from Tuesday and then the announcement on Wednesday. All right, so that's all for the weekly. And then when you go to the daily, what we're looking at is possibly, I'm going to borrow this trend line here. And if you just line up the big dump on whenever that was, on October 10th with the lows, and you start lining that up, that's going to be our trend. I'm going to leave this one on here for when we do these videos each and every day so we can kind of catch up with them. We had other ones on there. They didn't work out. I don't consider it a breakout, but this gives an example of why price isn't moving any higher. So it's respecting this trend line so far. Okay, so something to give you to look at. And also we already talked about this a gap here that we're at resistance, gap resistance. It wasn't quite closed, so I like to leave open the entire gap because that's where resistance starts, and you can see that respected here, and possible reversal candle here for the daily time frame. I'm not sure what tomorrow will bring, and we have those situations ready. And here's your moving averages. So it's, you know, the momentum's up, and the trend is pretty sideways to up for the 20 moving average. That's a simple. And so here's your scenario, just in a nutshell. If you hold on to even if you break below, if you hold on to these moving averages, you know, you're going further higher. I don't know how high, but we do have targets, and I talked about those with the members. And we always want to look back to some history. And so this move was a correction, and it seems almost identical to what we're going through right now. So if those moving averages start to hold and you just get these incremental highs, and you're not really blasting off and breaking out, because we could have drawn this as an ascending triangle. Instead, it was a little bit more like a wedge type play here. And so then you can expect divergences and then a breakdown from that point. All right, and that was your wedge right there. Price action got really tight and broke down. So that might be what's happening now, where you still can get another high coming up. And that, I mean, again, that's fine. That's we talked about being about a 1.5% risk here to the upside. But until we break down from these, or at least I thought last week we would have got some sort of test and got a right shoulder and then a head and shoulders setup, but it's just grinding so far. So on any breakdown, you want to see this hold, even if it comes down below and tests this gap here and gets back above. That's going to be really bullish. Now that will be the test. If you come down to these lows, there's going to be a huge test here, because this is going to be a very, very important low. Okay, so so far so good. You can't say anything's bearish right at this point, other than you're at resistance. All right, NDX. And I'm not going through all of the indicators on the daily time frame, because those divergences are there. There's not a whole lot to. I don't want to waste time looking at the same thing over and over. The one thing that we can talk about, and here's the bottom of that same low from 1010. So we'll leave this on, and that just kind of gives you that, okay, well, we might be at the stopping point here. All right. And here's your neckline for the head and shoulder look. All right. So here's your left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and then we'll look for the setup to play out if it's going to. And the DMARC is what I was going to say. DMARC is at an 8 count, so this is important to look at. Now tomorrow, both NDX and SPX, SPY and QQQ, they're going to have their 9 counts. Okay, so again, tomorrow doesn't have to be anything. It could be another grind day, but you know, going into, again, wasting time for FOMC. All right, here's VIX. And the VIX, again, is just holding. It's holding this gap so far, looking just basically like the market. So is it going to hold these lows, or is it going to close this gap? That's it's a big question. We have another trend line under here. So again, it's just whatever price gives us. Nobody knows what direction this is going to go from this point. It just gives us a high probability of a trade if it does break down to here. Now we have really something to put our back against so we can trade off of it. Can't really trade a whole bunch off of this point. Still haven't made a new low here, even though SPX continues to make these new highs each day. So that's something to mark down. But no real setup on this at this point. And IBIT. So we've been watching this correction, and I think it's going to play out a little bit further. It doesn't have to, but we're building a bear flag here, and this will be our bull bear line. This 382 along with the flag top. You start to break above there in the gap. Start to break above these, and now we're talking a bigger correction. Something else is happening, and we can then have enough information to consider this as a different count. Right now, we're looking for a wave 4 and continuation. MJ. And MJ is looking really nice, and same thing. We're just going to leave this simple, and we're carving out a low. It made a little bit of an incremental low here, but real flaggish type play. Still in the same range, and whether we get more market structure first, or if we come down to here first, then if we come down here, gap down again, and come back to this trend line, I certainly will add on to some calls, but the setup's not there. Okay, so it's either on the breakout or give me something to put my back against. Okay, we already added on here our calls for MJ, and we're just waiting for the breakout. So we're already in, but that would be nice to add on, or it'd just be nice to make money. Okay, that's that. Let's go to SPY. So we were talking about our big scenario here for the bulls and the bears. And I'll leave that for the members' videos. Come join us in there. And quite simply, our primary look here, still same thing, but today here's the difference. We hit that 887 that we were looking for, and so that's, again, that was the target. That's where we're looking at. Is this finished, or is this the end, or the beginning where we hold on to and we go higher? That's the big question. All right, but this is something to trade off of. 887 is, that's a major fib as well. And that same thing on QQQ. You hit that 786. The tech market is relatively weaker right now, and you see IWM actually made a new all-time high just today. So those are the rotations that are happening. You get a big name that rotates in. We talked about NVIDIA in the room. We made a video on it about the setup. And so you could have gone long there for a little hedge, or if you're bullish, to go long. That was a temporary move, obviously. The day before was Tesla. What's going to be next? Microsoft's in a position it could bounce a little bit higher. So those are the things we kind of pay attention to. And then back on SPY, I just want to show you here's your trend, clearly holding on to it, barely. It looks like it's clinching onto it. It doesn't look much different than on the downside right here. Just grinding until it finally gives it up. All right, so is it grinding, and it's going to expand? That's what we're going to wait on. And we'll be in much better position when we come into Wednesday. Are we down here? Are we up higher by Wednesday? That would be a fantastic short setup. So there's a moving averages. As we get into next week, we'll have a lot more information. It just really looks like this week wanted to pause and wait. Gave you a strong move, and now it's consolidating and not really breaking out here, even though he had a nice back test. We'll see what happens going into Wednesday. Here's your look. So you had this negative divergence. That's what we're looking to see if it plays out. We're at the gap resistance here. We did break down from this wedge. All right, so we had this wedge. It was climbing on top of that. Broke down back test. So do we get a negative day tomorrow? Maybe that gives us our doji. I don't suspect it'll be a big day, but if we do get to the options expected move for the week, that's 672. That'll be something to look out for. And then we have the sell signal on the stochastic. We have negative divergence here, and we're still in bearish condition here. You had that whipsaw just about went green, but it's all red still. We're still in the condition to go lower. So that's why my primary scenario is still lower. It looks like we're creating a bear flag here. Maybe we can get our moves for the first initial move lower. So we don't have any negative market structure at this point. We got to see new lows. This could be a 1, 2. We get that 3, 4, 5. Another bounce into FOMC with the lower high. So many things could play out. DMARC had that nice sell signal yesterday. All right, so we had a 913 count. It gapped up a little bit higher today, but that's a nice sell signal there. Money flow index, again, that's a negative divergence with the new high, even today. Distribution. Bollinger Band. We talked about this setup, and we got it this morning. Hit the top of that Bollinger Band with overbought conditions, negative divergence. So it's really, really stretched here, thin, and I think once this move starts, it's going to be, contraction leads to expansion. Now the oscillator, divergence, 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 all the way down. All right, that's what we got for you. You guys, the same thing works for the VIX. Are we going to close? We're forming another wedge here, filling it out. Try to break out, but the market wants to wait for something, so it could go a little lower in this wedge. Nice little wedge forming. And at VXN, the VIX for NASDAQ already made a new low here and has positive divergence. Let's see if the rest of the market can just get another low here, and that will be a positive divergence there as well. But same thing, all the momentums to the downside. But look at this setup here. Again, positive divergence. You have the buy signal. You have positive divergence into that bump here. And then if we do make a new low, just a couple pennies below, we'll have another reference of a positive divergence. Okay. That's it, you guys. Thanks for all the likes and subscriptions. I really appreciate all the support, and I want to see you in the Discord. Even if you're a member, and I know some people are communicating through Patreon and some post on YouTube, I do appreciate that, but I don't look at those as often as I do in the Discord. So just jump in the Discord. Feel free to ask any questions. DM me if you want to. If you want to speak privately. All right. Have a wonderful day.